Chapter 6 Celebration Without Disney. The signs had been there over the years that Disney was interested in reducing their involvement in Celebration. As mentioned before, the first sign of separation was when they took their name off the water tower. The next was when Celebration disappeared from their park maps in the early 2000s. Disney had already seemingly reduced their involvement with the Celebration School, and was able to slowly transition governance to the various home and commercial owner associations of the town. Then, in 2004, Disney finally sold the town center to Lexington Capital, which would take over maintenance of the town's iconic centerpiece. For some residents, this felt like a rug pull. Many came to Celebration due to their belief in the quality and craftsmanship the Walt Disney Company was known for. Many of those in Celebration were big Disney fans, and wanted to be a part of the company's history as Disney attempted to revolutionize the concept of a modern community. But for many others, these were not the reasons they came to Celebration. Many came for the school, or the seemingly safe and pristine atmosphere of the town. Many wanted a change from the cramped metropolitan lives they had previously led, and some just ended up in Celebration on a whim, being in the right place at the right time. Celebration had a lot of what the internet would call Disney adults, but it also had a lot of people just looking for a change. People moved to places for all kinds of reasons, and so they had a lot of different feelings about Disney leaving. So instead, in my interviews, I wanted to know something else. Was it the negative press and complications that changed their minds, or was Disney planning to leave Celebration from the very beginning?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what every developer wants to do. And that's why the governance structure was set up the way it's set up. And that's not untypical, that a developer will gradually cede power on the board to elected members from the residents, and over time until they reach a point when they've extracted the maximum revenue that they can from the development. They got return on their investment, and then they pull out.
I remember hearing that from early on, that the goal was Disney would embrace this, would throw its vast resources at it, get it up and running, and then turn it over as its own municipality. I was on the original stakeholders board. Disney always planned to leave. From everything I can remember, from serving on that stakeholders committee to being a teacher at the school to being an early member of that community, they always planned to go. There was never always going to be Disney's town. They were going to transition out at some point.
All throughout Celebration's development and existence, Disney was focused primarily on its other larger projects. Things like the canceled Disney's America, Euro Disney, Animal Kingdom, a second gate at the newly renamed Disneyland Paris, and those are just the theme parks. Toy Story, Hercules, Mulan, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Lilo and Stitch, Finding Nemo, Pirates of the Caribbean, and The Incredibles were all released from 1995 to 2004. Pixar was revitalizing the success of Disney's movie releases, but disagreements between leadership threatened to end the partnership of the two companies. In 2003, Roy E. Disney, son of Roy Disney and nephew to Walt, resigned in protest of the management strategies of Michael Eisner, and leadership was beginning to shake up. A year after Celebration's town center was sold, Bob Iger would replace Eisner as CEO of the company. Big things were happening at the Walt Disney Company during this time, and to them, Celebration was a small footnote in a storied and tumultuous chapter of the brand. At the same time, Celebration was a complicated project, which dealt with real people living in a real town that Disney was responsible for. It was a unique project, but it was always a side project, and to the company it was becoming more trouble than it was worth. After all, Disney is an entertainment company. Part of the reason Celebration was so closely examined by the press was that, in all honesty, Disney had no business building a town. They make movies and themed entertainment experiences, and Celebration was neither of those things. The same has been said of the Epcot project. It was an idea from a man at the end of his life, wanting to be more than an entertainer. Walt had wanted to be an American pioneer, someone to turn the dial from the past to the future, changing the everyday lives of the people of his country. Despite the marketing, Celebration was not directly inspired by Epcot, and yet it had a similar purpose: to become the next evolution of the American town. It was meant to push us into the future, even if just a little bit. And in the same way, it was meant to bring us back to the past, to be more than just a subdivision or town, but a community built on strong bonds. A type of small town, close-knit community practically lost to time. Epcot was meant to be the great city of tomorrow, but in a way, Celebration was meant to be the great city of yesterday, recapturing neighborly bonds we had lost over the years. Perhaps Disney had no business making Celebration in the first place, and perhaps then it made sense for them to leave their city of yesterday behind in their company's history books. But that's the thing about a community of people. It cannot be owned, bought, or controlled. You can own the government, you may buy the town, and you may control how it looks, but you can't do any of those things to the community. A community is planted when people form a central bond in a central place, and it naturally grows as those people develop culture and history with one another. When I started this documentary, I thought this would be an easy story about a bunch of Disney adults who locked themselves into a failed town that Disney left in the dust. But that's not the story of Celebration. It might be the story you've heard before, but it's not the truth. When I talked to those who had built it, who had lived there, who had worked there, I very quickly realized that these people loved this town. Not because it was Disney's town, but because it was theirs.
My son-in-law was one of the lottery kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So how's that for connection? Taught there, lived there, kids went to school there, daughter married a lottery kid. So my son-in-law, Jonathan, he was one of those kids, and he and my daughter met when they were in middle school and
Oh, wow.
together. Yeah.
That's really cool. So they met in middle school and then got married.
Met in middle school and Celebration. Neither one of them ever dated anyone else. Never. I mean, they went all through Celebration from the time he started there until they graduated from high school.
I was there for the alumni gathering, and 5 or 6 years ago, and I was there a couple of years ago. I've never had this experience, but it's got to be like having a child and then meeting the child, raising the child until they're 2 and then losing them until they're 7 or 8. And and they turned out fine. And it was nice to see. It was very satisfying. It told me that what we did was right, and what we did was smart.
All of this has been about Disney's time in the town, but that's what Celebration was. Now, before we wrap this up, let's move on from the history of the town and talk about Celebration today.